Yeah,
and we are actually live right now because I forgot to set the intro. So hi everybody.
Hi.
Normally we do that 30 seconds intro where we're like in the background and talking and everybody's like, where are they? And then all of a sudden we appear. We're skipping all that today.
Here we are.
We're just
everybody
right
got
in.
to see my pre-show stretches and.
Yeah, that's real controversial. Luckily, I didn't flip the live switch 30 seconds prior as Michael is doing his kind of twisted evangelist thing.
Yes.
That
Dear Lord, it's the demon bird.
Yeah, that. All right, hi everybody. Welcome to Sidebar, where we have me and Bailey and Ashley and Michael, and we're all just a little crazy.
Yep.
So it's perfect. And Mrs. TCF is lurking in the background, not mic'd up, but she's listening to everything. So
Awesome.
if we're not on our best behavior, I'm going to hear it later. So let's be sure to not be on our best behavior.
Okay, good.
Sounds like
It's
plan.
Well,
probably
make sure to
time for a good beating.
get Dan as much grief as possible.
Well, you know, that's how this stuff normally works. All right, so what are we talking about tonight? Virtual hearings.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which I think fits because we talked about the body cams last time, so it's kind of like a tech week here at Sidebar.
A
it would seem.
segue.
Yeah. So that's cool. But, you know, when we got to talking about topic ideas and we brought up this idea, I think our angle was, you know, where it's going, how it's evolved. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? All of that kind of thing. But I wanted to start with this to kind of set the stage. Hold on. There you go. You guys suddenly got off stage, but now you're back.
Okay.
So
On stage.
we've seen this in the pre-show. This was a letter that Judge Oakley wrote with regards to Zoom and virtual hearings and stuff like that. And he wrote this back in 2022. But I thought it would be good to start us off with a judge's perspective because ultimately it's up to them whether or not they're going to stream their content, whether or not they're going to have virtual hearings in their courtroom. And, you know, what we saw was a rise of this at COVID for obvious reasons. The technology had really been there before, and they were using it to bring people in from jail and stuff like that, so they didn't have to do transport. But then all of a sudden, all of these hearings are happening, and now, you know, some judges have backed away, but a lot of them are still putting their content out there. So I think that's kind of the basis for the conversation tonight. But again, I thought I'd start with Judge Oakley and his thoughts. And he said, I've sat on the bench of the district court since 1999. I've been the chief judge since January 2020. Zoom is a wonderful tool to have in our toolbox, but it should not be the norm for DC criminal proceedings. I've found it to be workable and actually helpful in most civil case hearings, especially where both parties are represented. My main objection to Zoom in the DC DC criminal case hearings, DC meaning district court. In the past 2 years, I've had to ask and or tell defendants to stop smoking, stop driving, stop eating, put on a shirt, sit up in bed if they could not have been bothered to actually get out of bed. In addition, I've had a defendant stay on his treadmill during the entire conversation I had with his attorney regarding an adjourned date for a PCC.
We've seen
Another
that.
woman sat for a hair braiding session through an entire bench trial. After I asked her to stop washing her dishes. The cake topper may be the woman who took her phone into the restroom with her. We actually saw such a thing live in Judge Simpson's court one time. Luckily, my recorder was fast on the remove button. I've seen a great deterioration in the respect shown our system in the last 24 months. Some of it may be due to folks being absolutely clueless as to proper behavior. In my opinion, however, I believe most of this disrespect is intentional. My FTA rate is often worse for my criminal docket than it was in the, quote, old days. The list of inappropriate behavior is not complete, but indicative of what my DC colleagues and I have been living for 2 years. In addition to the above, we also spend way too much time saying things like, you are muted, can you hear me now, is your real name T88, or iPhone or Samsung or Zoom user or ...
Something
I
else.
personally believe that whether or not a hearing is held virtually or live must be left to the discretion of the individual judge in his or her courtroom. I do so understanding that some judges will abuse this discretion. In that case, said judge should be called out and corrected. At the very least, the local bar will make their displeasure known come re-election time. Well, we've seen displeasure too with Judge Fleischer. Lastly, I am sure that judges that do not sit at the DC level may have a more favorable opinion regarding virtual court. I've never sat as anything but a DC judge, but I do know that what we deal with on a daily basis is much more different than other courts. Respectfully, Brian C. Oakley.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good place to start us out, because that is one judge's perspective. And what's interesting, as well as perspective seems to be mostly negative, he streams his court. So he seems to have a little bit of a duality regarding his opinions of it all. So it's interesting. Bailey, you have a ton of notes, I know. Would you like to kick us off based on what we just heard?
You know, I actually don't have a ton of notes. I'm very limited today.
Well, it looked like you had a ton. Well, whatever.
But
You have thoughts. You always have thoughts.
I did talk to my mom this morning about today's show, and essentially the laundry list that you mentioned with Judge Oakley, and she was shocked about. I'm like, yeah, Ma. I said I watch about 15 hours of court a week, and you will be shocked at the things that you see and how people behave, not just in person, but virtually. She was shocked, for instance, about the whole thing about being in bed. I don't want to pick on you too much, Dan, but I was going to do a bit. I was going to lay down on that 30-second silence thing and then climb out of bed and make a whole thing about it. And I'm wearing intentionally an inappropriate shirt. I am dressed inappropriately for court. This is not how you show up to court.
This isn't
Nor is
either.
it how you show up to Sidebar, but we'll discuss that later.
And I was eating as you were talking, and I was drinking. This is not what you do.
You drink anyways during Sidebar. What's your point there? We already
Yeah,
knew
well-
that.
Well, we
Or
all
fire up a
do.
blunt.
Well, right. And but you're addressing a third branch of the government, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care. Oakley said, you mentioned it, workable, helpful. The Zoom stuff. It's workable and helpful, and I think you mentioned primarily in the civil kind of angle. Guys, you are addressing the third branch of a government. You are addressing somebody who's been elected. They are an elected official who has to do a task. This is their job. So, or they're appointed, so you need to act accordingly. And I don't care if you are appearing through Zoom, or if you're in person, you need to dress accordingly, act accordingly, et cetera, et cetera. Even for me with my boss, I had a meeting with her. I forgot I was wearing this t-shirt.
Whoops.
And but I remembered 2 minutes before the meeting, and I was I tore that thing off, and I sat down. And so, you know what I mean? You got to have the wherewithal. But unfortunately, a lot of, some people show up to court wearing crazy t-shirts and saying odd things, and they also might have a unusual moniker or name under their name that ends with 3000.
Yeah, that did happen.
And then you blame your sister for that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting world out there in the virtual world of court. It's definitely not absent any kind of entertainment for sure.
Yeah, like Bailey said, people need to be a professional, especially when addressing a branch of government. I actually totally agree with that. The Zoom court came around mostly because of the pandemic. We all know that. They started live streaming their content. I don't know if it was really around before then. I wasn't watching court that much pre-pandemic. But I know that it kind of rose up more because of the pandemic of safety concerns, things of that nature. The problem is that people feel privileged now that they don't have to go anywhere and have the right to be on Zoom. And they feel that privilege whenever you give something to someone, they take a mile of it. And I feel like they're taking a mile of Zoom, and that's why they don't respect it like they do. I think they know how to act, but I don't think they care. So that's what I think about this. They care. They feel like if they're in their own house, they can do whatever they want. There's positives and negatives of Zoom, of course. Some of it is distracting. We know the moving vehicle thing. When people are in moving vehicles, it feels like you're like kind of drunk. Like it's like moving around too much. So I really don't like that. I know some people lately have had trouble with their cameras turning on, and then when they are told to come to the courtroom, when they were told to come to the courtroom, they're like, I can't get there. How would you get there if you didn't have Zoom? So these things, I don't know. I get a little fired up because people have all these excuses because they feel privileged. They should be on Zoom, and they don't have that privilege. I'm sorry. There's nowhere anywhere that says you have the privilege to be on Zoom. So that's my take on it. And yeah, I found it completely necessary during COVID. Now that we're out of COVID, I still feel it's necessary for most people to be on Zoom, but maybe not all people, because some people lose that privilege, and I can name a few.
Well, I don't care if they're on Zoom or not, as long as the judges keep broadcasting their courtrooms. Otherwise, we're going bye-bye.
Yeah, that's something I thought about too.
That's my only caveat. And besides, even beyond this channel, I like the transparency of it. I like being able to see what's going on in the courtroom.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you talked about like people acting privileged.
Yes.
This kind of, it gets a little bit like culture and society based, but I think this is yet another thing that speaks to the idea of people being the center of their own universe.
Yes.
You know, just
totally
a general lack of respect. And I suppose that the whole Zoom court phenomenon just kind of gives them a vehicle for that, for sure. I don't know, Michael, your thoughts?
So, you know, I view Zoom as one of those things. It's kind of a necessary evil, obviously. I do think that a lot of time is wasted. I agree with Judge Oakley when it comes to, you know, can you hear me now? You're muted. All right. No, you got to turn your camera. Okay, now your phone, now it's sideways. You know, I get that. And I think that's a very frustrating thing. Plus, there's audio issues. It sounds like crap half the time because some people, you know, I don't know why people can't just bother to buy a high quality microphone and have a professional setup in their homes. No, but
well, yeah, it's, you know, it's not that hard.
It's very frustrating.
How many cables do I have in front of me right now? Like 50?
I know, there's so
not that
many.
big a deal.
It's so many. It's only about 5 miles of cable. But I really think that I know I would prefer just to be in person in court myself. Yeah. I know that I prefer to watch people in person in court. I just think it's more aesthetically pleasing. I think from an audio standpoint, it's better. I think there's, you know, it's much easier to present evidence, to present your case, to have everything more cogent if everyone is in person.
You
that's
don't
how
freeze up like you just did.
Oh yeah, and then there's that. Am I frozen right now?
No, you're good. You're good.
You're fine.
Okay.
It was just funny.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. I mean, obviously the technology's there and it's fine for broadcasting from the jail. And look, it's fine for some people that are legitimately sick or disabled or, people that can't get into the courtroom. It is good for that. But I think for just about everything else, it's so much better to be in person. Now, to speak to what Dan just said, we've certainly seen a fair share of people in person, just like Judge West's Monday fashion show. And even in other courtrooms, we have certainly seen a number of people that show up in their shorts or their Beavis and Butthead shirts or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, some judges call it out. Some judges don't. It's pretty remarkable. Judge McNally, as much as you think the guy is, we call him Judge Dad, and you'd think that he's going to call that out. Pretty much never does.
Yeah.
Nope.
Even Judge Boyd has called it out less of late, and certainly now she does acknowledge. She always says thank you for dressing appropriately for court when people do, but lately she hasn't really been calling out the because I saw somebody else in there the other day that had some weird shirt on that was, I don't remember. It was some like Marvel shirt or something. I don't know. It was something like that. Anyway.
It's like, dude, you picked that to wake up and and it's like, what the?
So, but I mean, I love streaming courts. I think that part's great. And not just because of this channel. I just think it's great for transparency and all that. I support that and I want to see more of that. But Zoom in general for court or virtual hearings, I'm most of the time against it.
Do you mind if I go really quick, Bailey? I have something on my mind.
Go
Well, I was thinking about the clients and the attorneys. I know sometimes that in Zoom we have breakout rooms, that they'll go into a breakout room and talk. It's so much easier to do that if they're both in the courtroom, and they can just step aside, go ahead and do their thing, come back. It saves time doing that. And
Right.
I also think that attorneys can. I have a weird thing about attorneys being on Zoom. I don't know what it is, but I know attorneys sometimes get overbooked because they have a court hearing here and a court hearing here, so they can't be in two places at once, of course. So I don't know about that. I feel like maybe they bite off more than they can chew just because they can attend a Zoom hearing. But yeah, I guess it kind of becomes a negative at that point for me.
You kind of read my mind, Ashley, because I was going to go back to your point of like Zoom is a privilege.
Right.
It's not a right. And my issue was lawyers in their car in a parking lot conducting these are serious matters, and usually they're not, but they're kind of administrative, kind of like, can we just pass this for 2 weeks kind of thing. But no, you go to your point, Ashley, it's like you're dealing with serious matters.
Yeah.
How can I effectively communicate with my client and all this? And can he hear me properly? Is there a broken audio? Did Mike's, camera freeze up on him? I need to see all of this information.
Yeah,
And that's
telling your client to be quiet when they're supposed to be quiet, things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm on the that's where I was going to go about, like, it's a, like you said, it's a privilege.
Yes.
And my concern was also, is it effective? Is it effective counsel? Can it be effective? And I tried to look up some appeals before. This was like 5 minutes before the show. I tried to look up some appeals. If there were any appeals like, hey, I had a Zoom meeting in trial or court, and there are some out there. I don't have any details for it, but that's my issue. Is like, is this really effective? I mean, is it, like Judge Oakley was saying, is it workable and helpful? Okay,
Well,
it can be, but can have its weaknesses too.
Well, here's another angle to that. Talk about effectiveness versus cost effectiveness. Because the other side of that equation is that, as a client, you're not paying a couple extra billable hours for their time in the car, their transit time.
I can see that.
Because they'll bill that. They bill that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's at that point, as a client, you kind of look at it and go, okay, the guy might be more effective in court, but he just saved me $600 because I'm not paying 2 billable hours for his transit time.
Or do they still charge it? That's the question, but
I
hopefully
would
not.
fight that if they did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if he's in the
Just like
BK
interpreters charge that
BK,
too. They charge the transit
drive
time.
through, and he's in court. No, I'm gonna have an issue with that.
I know I forget which judge mentioned it or which courtroom it was brought up in, but I think it might have been back in Fleischer's court. They were talking about how I think it was Fleischer, and one of the lawyers was talking about how the one benefit is that they're not having to bill their transit time, and it's saving their clients money.
Well, that's a little cute anecdote from an attorney. Okay, that sounds sexy and nice, but what I'm asking everybody here is, is it okay for an attorney to be attending court from their car? Or
no,
should they
I
be
don't think so.
like I'm doing right now? I'm sitting in an office. This happens to be my bedroom as well. But, I'm dressed up. I comb my hair. Is it okay for an attorney to be in their car conducting business? And like Ashley was saying, I understand attorneys are pulled in like 8 different directions all at once. But is that acceptable? In other words, I put it up in the same level of a defendant showing up to court in bed and an attorney showing up in their car.
Yeah, I'd rather see them if they're going to zoom in from their office.
Yeah.
Someplace more professional. I would agree with you there.
Yeah, and if for some reason that the attorney is indisposed, like if they're in the hospital or something and they have they have people in the office that usually help out, but if there isn't, they can zoom in if they need to. If there's an emergency situation, I would expect, but But yeah, in the car, I don't necessarily agree with that unless it was an emergency situation.
Correct.
So Michelle brings up an interesting point in the comments. She says the judge is disadvantaged on assessing behavior of those involved in a court case. 10 feet from the judge is very different from being on a monitor.
Yes.
Yeah, that is
It's
very
a mental
true.
thing. Yeah, it is.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Like I said, people are in their own houses. They feel comfortable, so they act like it. When they're in a court, they're more professional.
To Michelle's point, it's it's that, and then it's making eye contact. I realize this sounds kind of hokey, but I mean, there's definitely more of that human connection when you're just in the same room with someone. You can read body language better.
The body language is a big thing.
You can. There's a lot of things you can do that it's very, very different when you're in person. So yeah, that opens up a whole other can of worms. I'm glad, and Michelle and I were actually talking about this morning about the virtual court. And again, virtual court's cool for watching, but in terms of Zoom and as it's, the aesthetics of it as on this channel just for watching, it's not so great. And so, yeah, the in-person is just, there's just so many more advantages. I get why attorneys do it though, but instead of running from court to court to court to court, just to be able to sit in your office and go to different courtrooms, just moving your mouse. I mean, I realize that's a lot easier.
Yes.
But I don't know. And also to Bailey's point, yeah, I don't know if I'd feel great if my attorney showed up from his car.
No.
Even if it was just to say, hey, Judge, we'd like a continuance, 2 weeks. All right, bond will continue. I'm fine, but I don't know. I think anything beyond that, asking for a continuance, I don't think it would instill the most confidence in me if my attorney shows up, especially if their car is like...
Exactly.
If they're calling from a Yaris, I don't know if I'm going to feel so great about my representation.
Yaris.
The other thing I wanted to bring up on the virtual thing is, let's say I'm accused of a crime,
Okay.
and a witness calls in virtually. Now, the jury cannot see this person. Mike was just making a good point about I can't see their nonverbals. I can't see their body language.
Yeah.
I can't assess whether or not this is a truthful witness, because a jury's allowed to judge them any way they want. They can believe all of it or none of it or part of it, and for any reason they want to, a witness's credibility. Can you really get somebody's credibility through a screen? Like right now. I mean, you guys know me, but
We know you're not credible.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a given. We can figure it out just fine, Bailey.
Ouch.
You guys.
You opened yourself up to that one.
I did. You made my point, and yeah, exactly. Like you don't. Right. Like the persona here in this show is, it is me, but you guys know a different part of me off stage. And I'm a little bit more truthful about my stuff. So that's my point.
Oh, yeah, you're very different off camera.
Can you really get a sense of somebody through a screen? And
Well,
I don't think it's that. I don't know. I would, if I was being accused of a crime, I would want my witnesses there on the stand.
To that point, though, Bailey, most judges want, if there's a trial, they want everybody in person.
Yeah, you gotta show up. They gotta show up.
And in most, and in the case of like Judge Boyd, she very rarely does Zoom. For the most part, occasionally she might have somebody from probation come in on Zoom or an officer, but for the most part, I mean, everybody in her courtroom comes in live, because I know ever since she could get off of Zoom, she did. She likes to broadcast her court, and I know she's had many battles about it, but she likes to have people in the courtroom, and that's one thing I really like about Judge Boyd's court. Judge Stevens is kind of the same way, so, and I really like that a lot. But yeah, trials, almost all judges want everybody in there if possible.
I will say in Judge Boyd's court, she's always been very clear too, to ask both sides if they have any objections to the person appearing via Zoom.
Yes.
So,
And I think that is a big deal, because I think both sides have to agree that they're comfortable with that.
yeah. I was thinking as you guys were talking about being able to like read people better when they're in person and stuff like that, and how you miss the body language, the social cues, all of that. It got me, this is off topic, but yet it kind of blends too. It got me to thinking about the rise of online dating apps and stuff. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Very true.
People struggle to build relationships now because they don't have that one-on-one meeting. They can't really understand what the other person is about because they're just doing it online.
I mean, imagine meeting somebody online. I mean, that's just so crazy, right?
Well, I know. Go figure. But
it's on Michelle.
But this is the same. This is the same type of thing, though. Only, if you get it wrong, you're in jail. There's a lot of consequences.
Right. No, there's a lot riding on it. Obviously, yeah, it's high stakes, and you want everything to be as fair as possible, and you want to have all the possible. You don't want to look back at a trial later and go, man, I guess I sure wish my witness, or I sure wish the Zoom hadn't glitched out at that pivotal moment I was giving testimony, or if you have to, even if it's not a trial, let's just say it's just a hearing, a probable cause hearing, or anything, like you never want to have any sort of regret about anything like that. So I think that's why I just like last week when we were talking about, or Tuesday when we were talking about body cams, and I said they were a net positive. I would say Zoom right now, such as it is kind of a net negative. Now, again, there are exceptions. I get it, but overall.
Well,
I
Oh,
agree.
go ahead, Ashley.
No, it's okay. I agree. I thought of another downside too, and I don't think this happens very often because usually the attorney is there when people show up on Zoom. But what if the defendant isn't who they say they are? And that's something I've been thinking about too. Like, what is that? What is there to prove that that person is the defendant?
That's an interesting point. I wonder how many times we've seen like a proxy. That's interesting.
We had a twin brother situation in, was it Judge Mercer's court the other day?
Judge Mercer's, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They were trying to figure out if it was the same guy or not, and apparently they each even had the same tattoo.
Well, to me, if I'm being accused of a crime, they always ask two questions, like, what's your name? State your name, sir. And I'll be like, Bailey Davis. And if my name is not Bailey Davis and I didn't do that crime, I'm not going to, no. I'm not going to admit to, like, I'm not going to stand in for Dan and be like, my name is Dan. No.
Well, first off, I don't appreciate that because I thought I had better support from you. But
hey, if you get in trouble, man, that's on you.
No, but that's you being logical.
Oh, right. Oh, man.
So,
what is wrong?
Unfortunately, let's.
A lot of people are not logical.
Look, I've said before that any one of us is just one or two steps away from being in front of these judges.
True.
So, something goes wrong and we're up there. It can happen to any of us. But for the most part, those who end up in front of the judges, especially your frequent flyers, are not exactly the brightest bulbs.
Yeah.
So, I think Ashley's point is an interesting one that honestly I hadn't thought of. It does definitely open up the possibility for bad behavior.
All it takes, Dan, is them to share the Zoom link with somebody else, and then somebody else could join that room and whatever. I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about. Not saying it will happen. Please.
It probably has.
Yeah. But
especially if you have like a twin. I had a guy work for me years ago who had an identical twin, and I know for a fact his identical twin always used to come in and pick up his paycheck for him. And you didn't necessarily notice by looking at him, but the mannerisms were just different enough.
Yeah.
That you could go, yeah, that's his brother. So
that's another point I wanted to bring up because I thought that was interesting. That came into my head.
Lindsay asks, is there an ID verification that we don't see that happens before they're allowed in the Zoom? I don't think so. And I will say this because some of the courts that we watch, I actually have to join the Zoom to get the feed. And as long as you got the link, you're pretty much in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now they won't. You have to be like accepted as a participant to. You actually have to raise your hand, and they have to like upgrade you to be able to appear on camera. So, but it would be easy enough for me to just log in and say, "Yeah, I'm so and so."
Yeah.
But you could also make that argument if I showed up in person. That hey, I'm.
You would have your
Dan.
ID on you though.
I'm
yeah,
Dan.
but they're not pulling IDs in court.
Right.
That's true.
We would be having the same problem in person and in virtual. But I understand where you guys are coming from, and that's why judges always say, I need to see your face and I want to hear your name. You
So they also
tell
get
me your
sworn in,
name
too.
and I need to see your face.
Yeah.
And then at some point I may even swear you in if I need to get some testimony from you. So whether it's virtual or in person, we we would be facing the same kind of potential issue. But I understand where you guys are coming from and where Lindsay's coming from. It's like, is there any kind of verification who might be on the other end of there? And we have judges sometimes. It wasn't too long ago. Gosh, we go through so much court. Remember where there was somebody, it was like mom coaching a daughter or a son or something? I think it was
I
a
think I do.
daughter.
I think I do remember that.
And the
Yes.
judge finally was like, is anybody talking to you? Who's talking over there?
I think it
Oh,
was
yes.
You need to
McNally.
get out
Yeah.
of here. I am not talking to you. I do not need your testimony. Oh, it had to do with like a land thing or issue, or like with property. They were gonna
Yeah.
inherit property, and the mom was gonna like anyway. So judges, I think, are very
It
careful
was
and
landlord
mindful.
tenant. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
But it was
you're
actually
right.
an interesting landlord tenant.
And it was
yeah.
because their grandmother died, and they were trying to take the property anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I do know judges are very they're very careful about treating a Zoom hearing very carefully and making sure that it is done kosherly and it's done well, and it's so especially if there's like witness intimidation or somebody's like giving answers to somebody, no, absolutely not. You need to be alone. I need to see you. Who else is in the room? Mom, get out of the room. I want to make sure mom is not in the room. That's the job of a judge. And so while it is a burden, it's also a convenience, and it's also workable and helpful. So
Oh,
it's
Simpsons Court.
it's kind of a rainbow, guys. It's kind of everything.
I have some info. So, Mrs. TCF is in the room. She's not mic'd up, but she's with us, and she did a little research for us
Okay.
on ID verification for Zoom defendants. And we have some general info. This isn't court specific. So, generally,
Okay.
what happens is, the participants get a Zoom link, often from their attorney. It's not a public link. That's not always the case, though. Again, this is general information because some of the courts that I join for the live show via Zoom, those links are public. You have to check into a virtual meeting room. The clerk or the bailiff will check you against the participant list, verify your name against the docket. Defendants are typically required to change their Zoom display name to their legal name and case number. Often it's the clerk that'll do that.
Nice.
And then obviously the please state your name for the record, and then the attorney confirming that that's the person. So assuming the attorney wasn't duped all along,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
then there is that extra thing as well. They should be able to
Yeah.
notice that the person appearing isn't really their client.
If the
So
attorney
there are
isn't there,
some-
if the attorney wasn't there, though, that would be a problem. But if the attorney is given the link to the client, that's a safeguard there because that attorney will pretty much know that's who that is.
Yeah, but again, that's kind of court dependent because some of the courts, especially the courts in Florida, those links are often public because of the sunshine laws.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of Florida, the other issue I have with the virtual is Judge Glazer, Spanish with the interpreters.
Yes, interpreters.
That's my biggest. I circled it. There's so many times where there is an interpreter that's available. So if we have people who come in who do not speak English, we absolutely need to have an interpreter for them so that they understand the charges that they're facing and they understand everything, right? They are defendants just like anybody, and they need to understand the charges that are being presented against them. So what we do is we get interpreters. We even got an interpreter from, where was it? It was a strange country in Africa on the like horn of like the
Oh.
Red Sea. We had to get like that interpreter. I love that. I love that we get
God.
interpreters. The only thing that bothers me is the interpreters over the virtual. I don't think it's very effective. And I know the defendant is not hearing everything in their native language. So for instance, the judge may be addressing them and the interpreter she'll stop. The interpreter then has to relay that to the defendant. and then they go back and forth. But there's so many oftentimes there's so
Still,
much crosstalk between
yeah.
the public defender and the and the judge again, and they're going back and forth, and the interpreter's just sitting there like, when do you want me to, like, what do you want me to interpret?
Because
And
they
in
don't have
my
that they don't have that cue. Like
right,
they don't know
there's
when
no
to come
pause in
in.
it, and so
Yeah.
what the interpreter ends up doing is just not saying anything. And I'm over here
Mm.
watching this, and I am screaming in my head. Like sometimes it's not that, it's more administrative, but my point is there's sometimes where it's like
Yeah.
the defendant needs to know 100% of what they're being accused of and the conversation that they're being told. And so what I prefer is with people who might need a translator, I love it when they're actually in court, because
Yeah.
what ends up happening is the interpreter will be back like here, and they'll cover their face, and they'll be right next to the defendant, and they can just say everything.
And it goes so much faster too.
And it does. They don't have to wait for the
Jeez.
translation and then go back and then go back and then go back. So I'm not going to lie. When I get into these translation clips, I just walk away, because I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting here all day. No.
Well,
you know.
thank you for your support, Bailey.
Well,
but I try to, but I try to avoid them as much as I
He
can.
gets frustrated though, but I understand what he's saying.
No, I try to
just,
avoid them as much as I can because they are kind of a drag.
Dan,
By the way,
Dan did bail out on one of them once. I remember, in
right.
went on
Judge
forever.
Yeah.
You did.
in
It was
Kansas,
going- it
Judge
was going
Webster.
heavy. It was
Yeah.
going heavy.
It was
went on
bad.
for like 40 minutes. She was just explaining the rules and stuff. And she would do a sentence, the interpreter do a sentence, and in Spanish, every English sentence is about the equivalent of 4 in Spanish. You know, and Dan at 30 minutes or so was like, all right, so I never do this, but this has gone on way too long.
I think that was the
you know,
day that I walked away, because I remember that day specifically, because I had walked away for like 5-10 minutes, because I'm like, they're gonna wrap this up. I got to take care of some stuff anyway. And then I came
Still
back and I'm like,
going.
oh my god, is she still talking?
Well, that's what
Oh
I was.
my
That's what I was
God.
waiting for, was for them to wrap it up. Because as a general rule, I don't like to leave things in the middle. If we start something, I like
Right.
to finish it.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
That
But
was
that's the beauty of virtual. We get to see all that, but it's also kind of, it can be a hindrance. It's like,
I mean, Judge Webster left that up, but then took down in the middle of one of the most interesting hearings she had, and then that one got interrupted right at the cliffhanger too. That was so.
yeah,
that was so frustrating.
That'll be another sidebar topic: judges who delete their feeds too quickly.
You know what?
got it.
We could
That's-
fill a week on that.
That is
I got it.
that is a
That's a-
great topic
that
because
sounds
Ashley
tasty.
writes it
That
down.
sounds tasty. Yeah.
no,
so
it's a great topic.
because you referenced it, I looked it up. It was Eritrea, was the country in Africa,
Oh right.
Eritrea. Yeah. and it
north
looks
of
beautiful.
Ethiopia, across the Red Sea from Yemen and Saudi
Eritrea,
Arabia.
isn't
It
it?
looks
I don't know.
beautiful. Yeah.
Eritrea.
Yeah.
It's something. It's
Tomato,
neighbors with
tomato.
Djibouti and the Sudan. So,
Thought
and
you
love
somebody
that.
will
Like
yell at me
weird
because
name.
I said the Sudan and not just Sudan.
Okay. Cool.
It's kind of like saying the Ukraine. You're not allowed to say it that way anymore, even though they said it up until 5 minutes ago.
Oh, like
Yes,
the Ukrainian peninsula, like that type of thing.
Yeah, you can't refer to them as the Ukraine anymore.
It's
just
not
Ukraine.
the. It's
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha.
It's I don't know.
I missed that memo.
And
I will
Yeah,
note
me
it.
too.
And
But
Lindsay said I pronounced it right, so yay.
okay,
Yay.
All right.
because I've heard it pronounced just like a lot of these countries. I've heard them all pronounced differently. And here's the crazy part. You know, I'm like the geography guy, but even some of those countries in Africa. Well, obviously, when I learned them back, and this is how old I am, half of them aren't even the same anymore.
True.
So,
Yeah.
Well, there's people in our own country that mispronounce it. A lot of them are the United States of Merca, so
yeah.
We
Well,
can't even
yeah,
pronounce our
it
own
happens.
words.
it happens.
Well, yeah. It's there's a lot of illiteracy, and most of it's in Kentucky. So.
Fair enough. All right, so let's step back from that sidebar on sidebar. Get back on track. I actually had a question I wanted to ask you guys because we watch so many different courtrooms and pretty much all of them use Zoom. Is there a courtroom or a set of courtrooms that you think handles it better than others, or you think there's some that handle it worse than others? I'm curious what your thoughts are. Is there like a gold standard out there for Zoom proceedings?
Well, as I mentioned, Judge Boyd hardly ever does them anymore.
Does that make her the gold standard then?
Well, because
Opting
her
out?
courtroom in and of itself, if we're talking about just a virtual courtroom or how it sounds, just it sounds great, and she generally is pretty good about not having people on that sound terrible. Judge Mogan does a very good job with all that. I think she handles that very well. Judge Simpson constantly has Zoom, so but I would say if the way to handle it is probably how those people did. Judge Mogan, Judge Boyd, and Judge Simpson, I guess they do that pretty well. And then I know Judge McNally hates Zoom, so
Yeah.
I was gonna say Judge Dad McNally does a really good job with the
he
Zoom.
does.
Like, he
Okay,
doesn't put up with any, like with that one guy who claimed that he was
yes,
blind.
here we go. Yes,
And he's like, and
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I know
his
how
video was
technology
working, but
works.
he just wanted to screw with Judge McNally, so he covered his video. He said it wasn't working, even though you could
he's
see
putting
like
his hand over it like I'm blind.
This
Yeah,
is
and-
what I'm talking about.
yeah.
And I'm
And
like,
then-
he probably put freaking electrical tape over his camera, like, Judge, it's on.
Just a
Why
piece
can't
of
I just-
paper, Bailey. I
why
don't think he.
can't-
It's
Yeah,
like
why
I'm
can't I just-
disabled. I can't get to the court.
And then he goes, yeah, and that's what set me off. He goes, well, I'm blind, Judge. I can't go down there in person because I'm blind. I'm like, yes, as you very well know, we blind people are incapable of getting around at all, period. And there's never been, imagine if there was this technology invented like ride share or public transportation or buses or, I don't know, friends or family that could take you to a courtroom. You stupid ass.
Well,
And you have
Right.
and you have, like, if you do have to walk around, you have, stick if you're completely blind. But,
yeah, and
yes.
he says, yes. He should have, Judge, I'm blind, and held up his cane.
Well-
But
correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but isn't it actually like national law that since you're blind, you're not allowed to leave your house? I thought I read that
yes,
somewhere.
you are supposed to
Wait.
stay in your house. It's like house arrest.
They let you
thought
out?
so.
They let you out, Mike? You're allowed to walk out of your house?
Every
Yes, blind-
third Thursday.
Blind people can do, and we can also be on juries.
Oh, you can hear.
Beth just held
another
up a note to
misconception.
me. Beth just held up a note to me that asked the question, how did he log in?
Ah.
Oh,
Ooh.
Judge, I used Braille.
Braille Zoom.
Beth just.
And anybody that's going to write it or leave an angry comment, because that seems to be the thing on this channel lately, is if you're going to leave an angry comment, I'm blind, I'm allowed to make fun of blind people. That's how it works.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. This guy was...
Lindsay, counterpoint.
Well.
There's not a paycheck or a fare high enough to make me want to be in the car with that guy.
Right.
Well, okay, well, touche.
So there is that.
Well, but I mean, McNally's in Michigan. Where exactly in Michigan is he? He's in
He's in Wayne County. He's in
it's not
little
Detroit.
little south of Detroit.
Okay,
He's like
so-
between Taylor and Detroit. I forget exactly where he is.
Okay, so, you're probably in a smaller community. I mean, you got two legs. They work. They just walk down to the courtroom. Then, that's right. That guy was like, I'm a veteran. I'm blind. I'm a quadriplegic. And I also have syphilis. So I can't get down there, Judge. I'm sorry.
Oh, and you have PTSD,
And I have PTSD.
bipolar.
And I also identify as they, them.
And you're gonna have the constipation defense.
Yes. That was maybe we've had some great highlights this week
and
on
Beth says
TCF.
agoraphobia.
Agoraph- arachnophobia, and
All the phobias.
Well, I
Yes.
think I can tell you who handles Zoom worse, and that would be Reno.
oh yes, Judge Shelley O'Donnell. I think that's
Yeah.
her name.
O'Neill.
Yeah,
O'Neill.
O'Neill.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think actually Florida does pretty well with their Zooms, just by the amount of Zooms they have going on at one time.
Judge Mercer, Judge Garcia. Who's the other one that I just forgot his name? There's another judge that's down there that we watch sometimes.
Brantley Clark.
Brantley Clark is great with. They all handle that really well. They have a nice pace, but they seem to have the clerks, everybody that works in those courtrooms. They seem to have this all very laid out, and it's very good. And I realize that they're in kind of a smaller county, like Bay County or whatever. But still, it goes very well. So if you are going to do it, maybe that is the gold standard, like how they do it, just how they run their courtroom in general. It's amazing for as fast paced. I know this is a side tangent, kind of, but
Good.
I think it does tie in. As fast paced as Judge Mercer is and Judge Garcia, I mean, they really do review their cases for probable cause, and they still do a thorough job despite their kind of their rapid pace. So, and that's maybe my biggest complaint about Zoom too, is just how much it slows things down.
Yeah.
And yet for them, they seem to get it pretty quickly. And maybe it's just they have everyone in their courtroom has worked together for a while, and maybe that's part of it.
It's
I
whatever
don't
you're
know.
used to, maybe.
Yeah, but they definitely have a system, and it's working for them. And so if you are going to do it, do it like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your gold standard, really.
You know who does it well, but I don't show her court very often.
Who?
And that's Judge Washington. Washtenaw
Oh
County.
yeah, yep.
Oh.
She does it, and I think it's her staff, honestly. But
Yeah.
people are always queued up. They move through them fairly quickly. There's not any weird delays. Generally speaking, if there's a translator needed, which doesn't seem to happen often in her court, but if there is, they're like ready to go. It's very efficient.
Okay.
Honestly, one that I don't enjoy when he has Zoom people is Middleton,
Oh, I
because
don't.
he's already a slow pace.
Yes.
So when you take that slow pace and you throw in the delays of Zoom, and then you
Yes.
throw the interpreter on top of it.
This reminds me of a time back in 1956 when I was making a plate of corn muffins. And,
Oh, you work at
know,
the local factory? You've been
And
there for
I knew your
25 years?
grandfather. We used to go to school together, and sometimes we'd pitch stones across the pond.
I'm glad he's
Back
not my
then,
lecturer.
Nichols had pictures of bees on them. Give me 5 bees for a quarter, you'd say. It's like, I mean, it was. I love
December
Yeah.
26th.
Wait,
I love
like-
Judge Middleton.
I do too.
I
I'm gonna
really
admit,
do.
Yeah.
So it's out of love, but I have to say, if whenever we go to Judge Middleton's court, it is all right. Sit back, grab your breakfast, just get comfortable, stretch, because we're here for a while. Now, again, I enjoy it a lot, and he always has these anecdotes that are always hilarious in a dry humor way. But my
This is what
God.
Michael does, Lindsay.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just I don't know, man.
You know who I don't like Zooming?
Hmm.
And that would be Fulton and DeKalb County here. Sorry. I don't like how
Yeah.
they do it. I don't like how they do the herd thing.
Oh no, the herd is
Oh.
Clayton County.
I'm sorry, Clayton County then.
Oh,
the herd
yeah,
thing is not
hallway
appropriate
court.
at all.
Hallway court.
Maybe during the pandemic, but not now.
That is
Absolutely not.
That is. I got feelings about that.
Yes.
Like
We're
the
talking about
cattle
Zoom?
call.
We'll talk
It's
about
like,
this.
There's not that you have a presumption of privacy or anything, but it's like, number one, come up. Number two, come up, and the camera is crappy and it always looks like this, or it looks like this, and then they're like, it's just terrible. And I'm like,
Yeah,
how
they
is
always
this-
have. They're always like real close, like this. They're like, hi.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
stare-
not to Zoom.
And
Yeah.
then the other thing
It's
is
Zoom,
like,
all right. They're zoomed in on their eyeballs.
is this the same judge that will actually be giving a briefing to everybody in the hallway? Like, anybody who wants an attorney, step over here.
Yeah.
But if you don't want an attorney, blah, blah, blah. And then, so it's like,
All right,
They could
we'll
do
be
so much
serving you
better.
70
So
people
much
at a time. Like, all right. If you're
I'm
here
ashamed
because
of
you
them.
stole something, get on the left. If you're here because you beat your husband or wife, get on the right. All other matters in the middle. Like, that hallway court is, I mean, it's like they just decide. And then when they do when it's the close up, it looks behind them like they're in a bathroom. Like, I'm like, what? I half expect to see a urinal behind them. Like, that's the worst. That is the worst court. I'm fascinated by it. So whenever we go there, I like when Dan goes to that court, but at the same time, I'm like, what? This is not real. This is almost like we're in another country. This is like
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the first
That's
thing
how
I
I
think
feel.
of when
That's how
they
it is
when they
here,
separate them out and put one against the wall, the first thing I think of is communist Russia.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is how they
Putting them
do it.
against the wall.
Yeah, this is the Soviet court. All right, welcome to Soviet court. All right, stand over against the wall now.
Why can't they
Line
have
up.
like a room and just have, some courts do that. They have a designated room. They put people in, and
They
then
have a room. It's a hallway. Hallway's a
No,
room.
no, that's not a room, Dan. The room.
You're going
Four
to room.
corners. That's smaller.
Get in corner. You'll be there for
Isolated.
20 years. We don't have Zoom. You want Zoom? Go to America, the Zoom. We don't do Zoom here. You show up in court in person,
You're
or
so
we
much
show
better,
up to
man.
you. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, so
Yes,
it
it is a
Lindsay's
room, Lindsay,
request.
but it's not a proper room
Oh, no.
for that.
What's Lindsay asking?
Per
Is a
Lindsay's
hallway a
request,
room?
the poll has been started. Is a hallway a room? We'll rely on the wisdom of the crowd.
It
I
is a
just
room,
voted. I
but it's
just
not a
voted.
small enough room.
I mean,
I voted. It's not a room, Ashley. You're wrong. That's
I
a
mean,
hallway.
well, if
it has
you're,
4 corners. It's a room. Oh no.
well, according
we
to the
go.
Dungeon Master's Guide, it is not.
Lindsay's poking the bear right before the end of the show,
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
So-
one thing we'll have to say about this Zoom court and these virtual courts and all of that is that it's definitely enlightened us as to the different ways justice is done around the United
Very
States.
much so.
Because,
Yes.
in Clayton
Yes.
County, it's done in a hallway. In the Commonwealth of Kentucky, it's done in a converted library.
Yes, or-
In Southern Ohio, it's done in a dungeon. I mean, you know what? We're learning a lot about our country. You got.
And then there's that courtroom where it's
Very
a barnyard.
Oh yeah.
The barnyard one.
Yeah, Otsego County, Michigan, where it's like a converted pole barn,
Yes.
and the prison is like a chicken coop.
And to Dan's point also, we get different temperaments from the attorneys, all parties involved. They act differently. Like if we go to the Midwest, everybody's incredibly respectful and patient and calm and everything. But if we go to Miami, or we go, to a big, municipality or big. It's like, and so we do get different flavors of how the attorneys interact with the judges, and like some attorneys really, they like to argue.
It does keep it interesting. That's
Yeah.
for
does.
sure.
And so, it's a beautiful thing that being able to see these different courts across the country and see how they follow their laws for their state. They also have to follow the laws of the federal law.
You can't
And
change the
we
Clayton
get to
County
see
law.
these different expressions of this, and yeah, it's awesome. I never get bored with this. I will never get bored with this. And so long as they keep zooming, I'm going to keep watching, and I'm going to stay tuned.
Here.
Well, you're required to, number one, because
Right.
it's Ellie's
I-
law.
I'm stuck like Chuck.
Yes.
I got handcuffs on
Yeah.
me. I'm stuck
Number
like
one, it's
Chuck.
Ellie's Law. Number two, you're like a contributor to this channel now, so you're stuck
Yeah.
forever.
Wait a minute. What am I?
Yeah, a
Yes.
little bit.
I mean, you're here, Bailey. Yeah, I would say so.
Oh, we've about reached the end. We should probably have final thoughts. Bailey. Oh, by the way, we've solved nothing. So,
That's right.
as normal.
So virtual, I guess we learned that Bailey is actually crazy on the other side of the lens. You guys know. But in the meantime, Bailey's not going to be picking up any cases, and I encourage everybody watching not to pick up any cases, because if you do, you just may be featured on Sidebar
Or on the live morning show. Ashley.
or on the Live Morning Show.
Well, we discussed, we came up with nothing, and here we are.
We didn't come up with nothing. We did come up with stuff. I
We
mean,
came up with stuff, but
we just didn't
This is
solve
one of the
anything.
funnier ones we've done.
Yes.
we didn't solve it.
It's
We didn't-
great.
Yeah,
This has
but
been the
I
most
still
fun
think Clayton
episode.
County should change their laws in regards to the hallway, please.
Well,
Shout
what room
out
would you
Eliana.
put them in if not the hallway? Because you see how many people they have. They have hundreds at a time. Should they do a stadium? That could be cool.
No, they should just act like normal human beings. Sorry, Dan. But yes,
I'm just messing with you.
Geico Stadium presents.
they should act like human beings. But stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time on Sidebar.
That's right.
Michael.
I think we've solved nothing, but we have all pretty much agreed, except for one of us, that a hallway is not a room. And
It is
I
a
think
room.
that if we've done anything on this show tonight, that's one thing that we've managed to discuss, and I think that was a really important part of this conversation.
Yeah, we'll
But
end the poll.
I-
We'll end the
yeah,
poll.
I-
67% say
wrong.
it's not a room.
Okay. Okay. All right.
It's,
Sure.
I mean, the DM guide says it's not.
Well, I'm saying it is, and that's where it's going to stay for me.
Well,
All right. Well, I have a special announcement before we leave. This part isn't special. Unfortunately, Ashley won't be able to join us for next Tuesday's show. But the special announcement is Lindsay has agreed. So,
Yes.
So we will have Lindsay with us next Tuesday. And right after the show, we're going to figure out what in the world we're going to talk about. So, Lindsay, I'll let you know as soon as we know.
Lindsay,
And,
looking forward to it.
Look
That's going
forward
to be
to
awesome.
that.
yes.
Do well, Lindsay.
Yes.
So, per our normal arrangement, like we've already said, we solved nothing, but that's not our goal here. Our goal is to talk every now and then, have fun, and we laughed harder tonight than we have in most of these. So,
Thanks to
That's
Mike.
true.
Mike.
good.
Thanks to Mike, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
thanks
why
to
we
me
keep
being
him
stupid.
around. Mike is the
Yeah.
comic relief.
Yes.
yes.
If it was just me, everybody would tune out, and we don't need that. All right.
Morning.
So we'll be back again for Sidebar on Tuesday with a special panelist, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Then be back live on this channel tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, a half an hour earlier for channel members. If you are not a channel member, what in the world are you waiting for? Get that fixed.
That's right.
Become a channel member, because we get to do cool things. Like in the pre-show, you get to join me on stage if you want.
That's right.
And that's fun.
Calling in.
All right. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. God bless.
See you guys.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.